Well, hey, what's going on? Nick Kirby here. Welcome into Chatterbox Reds, the off-season edition. Pleased to be joined by my good pal Mike Hart. Talk a little free agents as well. We're kind of getting there. 5 days after the World Series, Mike, is when free agency begins. How's the off-season treating you so far, my friend?
I think these postseason games have been pretty fun to watch, man. I wanted to go to bed so badly during that Mariners Tigers game, but I just couldn't do it, and I was glad I stayed up. So they've been pretty entertaining to watch, even if the Reds aren't still in it. It's been a fun postseason.
Yeah, that game 5 was incredible. I'm on baby watch, so it doesn't matter. I just hold the baby and all good. So yeah, wild Brewers game. They almost come up with a win there at the end, but they fall 2-1 in game one of that series. Mariners up 2-0. Won both games on the road in Toronto. But if you're here, you don't really care about other teams. You care about the Cincinnati Reds because you're a sicko. Listen to Cincinnati Reds baseball talk on October 14th, 2025. Before me and Mike get started, we're going to have a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. There is nothing better than October baseball and grilling out, and I use Omaha Steaks for all my grilling needs. And now, during their early Black Friday sale event, you can get 50% off site-wide, plus an extra 20% off select favorites, and our listeners get $35 off with promo code Chatterbox. It's so great to have steaks, hamburgers, and gourmet hot dogs always in my freezer, ready to go. It's so convenient for me to go online and order. I like the value freezer filler package to stay stocked up. The steaks are perfectly aged, hand-cut, and USDA certified tender. The burgers are mouth-watering and grass-fed, but don't sleep on the gourmet hot dogs. They are seriously the best hot dogs I've ever had. Plus, they also carry chicken, pork, seafood, and fantastic desserts. Save big with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off select favorites during their early Black Friday sale. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code Chatterbox at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com. Promo code Chatterbox at checkout. Deep South Commodities is a proud supporter of Chatterbox Reds and our Deep Drive of the Day, and DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks as always to our friends at DSC. And we also want to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secure, and anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay. All right, Mike, let's jump into free agent talk. I think for me personally, I'll ask you this first before we get started. I think it's more likely the Reds probably make the bulk of their acquisitions via trade than free agency. But trying to predict who you're going to trade for is very hard, almost impossible in some respects. Well, maybe as we get deeper into the offseason, we start hearing some actual rumors. We'll dissect some of those, but for the most part, I'm probably not just going to be throwing out blind trades because it's overall maybe fun but kind of silly. Do you kind of agree with that sentiment, or do you think that they could go a different route?
No, I agree with you, and I understand, and I think that's just kind of what we have in the amount of acquisitions that we made last year was the same way, right? We got Gavin Lux, Brady Singer, things like that, where we were able to make moves, trading assets to get big league assets. So I think that's probably where it's going. And I'm with you with trades. There's always just so much information that we don't know. Like I remember reading the Brady Singer Jonathan India trade outline that Charlie did. And it was just like, oh, yeah, they liked Brady Singer and almost traded for him at another point. It's like, there's no way we would know that, So it's just like, we don't even know who potential trade partners are, who they've even talked about previously. So it's a fool's errand to talk trade, I think. especially with this front office at this time of year.
So we'll talk free agents. Probably a 1% chance we actually hit on a correct one with that too. But you know what? Hey, it's the offseason, and Mike, we're having a little bit of fun. All right. So what we're gonna do for this exercise is I had Mike, me and myself, me and Mike, we picked a dream free agent, so someone that's probably less than 5% chance of happening, like completely out in la la land. We did a more realistic one, and then we kind of did we'll call it under the radar. It's probably more bargain hunting. So maybe think like the Austin Hayes type deal. That type of signing is maybe that last one. So I've already made my plea for who my dream one would be in Kyle Schwarber. The only thing I will add after thinking about it a little bit more and talking about it a little bit more is the fact that I do think this might be crazy. I know a lot of people have mentioned the name Josh Naylor as a potential free agent target. I will say this: I think it's more likely the Reds signed Kyle Schwarber than a player like Josh Naylor. And my reasoning for that is I think Naylor is probably still going to get over 20, 25 million a year, depending on how many years someone goes with him. I think if the Reds actually do it, I think they would try to go all out for a guy like Schwarber, but probably more likely than not, they're not going to do it. So, Mike, what's your thoughts on bringing Middletown's finest home?
I would love that. Obviously, he's somebody that hits righties and lefties well, which I think has been, especially at the DH, to put somebody in the lineup that you just like don't have to worry about matchup wise, somebody that is going to immediately become your best power hitter, and it's not even close. He might have doubled our I think what Elly had 22 home runs and he had 55 home runs. So more than double the amount of home runs added to this lineup would be something that would be incredible. Also, uh, when you have a DH or somebody that DHs a lot, there's often a little bit of a learning curve in order to do that. Just to be able to stay engaged in a game, be able to sit on the bench and kind of get cold while you then have to come up and make 4 at bats. And that's something that he's been doing for years now. So it's something that is, I think it's been talked about as a learned skill. So having somebody like that, if we're going to just like go all out and say this is our DH, I'd love to be able to have that. I'm right there with you. However, I also completely understand the limitations that this ball club has when it comes to whether it's real or perceived by the front office. It's really hard to believe that they're going to go and give out a $25 million contract per year AAV, whether it's 2 or 3 years. It's pretty hard to believe that would be the case. And, I can see, I've heard like it's somebody, I know he's getting up there in age, but he's had multiple spots at different places and all of them have been like, dude, we love this guy. Go get Schwarber. I heard Cubs fans be like, go get Schwarber. I heard, Boston fans say, go get Schwarber. Phillies fans are going to be like, bring back Schwarber. So unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be only us bidding for him as well, which ultimately drives up the price, will drive up the years. So I'm with you. Less than 5% is probably where I would stand with Schwarber on that aspect.
58 expected home runs last year if he played his home games at Great American Ballpark. I mean, legitimately, you don't have to squint and think the guy could hit 60 home runs playing for the Cincinnati Reds. My last thought on Schwarber before I move on. How many times Cincinnati Reds front office and ownership group do you have an opportunity to potentially sign a player for his actual market value? You're going to have to pay Schwarber. Like, he's not going to be cheap. And I doubt he's going to take a hometown discount. I think that is that's very, very rare in today's baseball. But you might actually be able to get Kyle Schwarber at the same price that the Dodgers would get Kyle Schwarber. The Dodgers aren't getting Kyle Schwarber. They have a million DHs, but you get my point. The Cubs. Like I think the Reds could offer Schwarber the same deal that the Cubs offer him, and I think Schwarber more likely than not chooses the Reds. But for example, Kyle Tucker, the Reds would have to significantly, in my opinion, probably blow out Chicago's offer. Like, they would have to pay him significantly more. because I think Chicago's more attractive for a player like Tucker, advertising, all that kind of stuff that goes along with it. So that's my like last point of this is like you don't always have the opportunity. We've heard that the Reds have made offers and other teams made. There's been players. I think Marcelo Zuna took less money to go sign with was it the Atlanta Braves? I believe he took less money to go sign with the Atlanta Braves because he wanted to play for the Braves. He didn't want to play for the Reds. The Braves, I mean, are a bigger brand than the Reds. So that's my last plea, and we'll move on. So, Mike, your dream scenario, who do you got?
Well, if you were playing in the clouds, I decided to go one up on you that way. My dream signing is Cody Bellinger, a guy that we saw when he played for the Cubs, spent his last year with the Yankees. Last year, he had a 5-WAR season, according to Fangraphs. He had 160 hits, which would have put him second on the Reds, 29 home runs, first on the Reds. 813 OPS, first on the Reds, 125 WRC plus, first on the Reds. So this guy would come in and immediately be our best hitter. And what specifically I liked about it was that he not only he cut his strikeout rate, it was actually the lowest that it was of his entire career this year, which is obviously what has been said the Reds are focusing on for better or for worse. But he did that while increasing his hard hit rate. So he's not just being Santiago Espinal and shooting the ball the other way. He's hitting 29 home runs and having a increased hard hit rate while still not striking out. And to me, that is a rare feat that would be something that would be welcomed in Great American Ballpark. He also plays all 3 outfield positions and well, including first base. He had 7 outs above average. So I think that's important is because what that does is it provides all kinds of flexibility around the outfield, right? You can start giving Friedel days off against left-handed pitching because you can have somebody there that can play a good center field and play it well. You could also have him in left field or right field, depending on, what matchups you have, who is up, available, who's doing well, things like that. And the reason you can have this flexibility is because he bats great against both sides of the plate. Just like I talked about with Schwarber. This year, he had a 180 WRC plus against left-handed pitching. He's a left-handed hitter. So he hit significantly better against left-handed pitching than he did against right-handed pitching. Now, in his career, he has 117 WRC plus against lefties, 119 WRC plus against righties. So he hits both very well, but he just is somebody that is going to allow you the ultimate flexibility in the outfield and somebody you can pencil in at 2 or at 3 in the lineup, maybe even 1 at first in the lineup against a lefty when Friedel is either not in or you would move him down, and you could feel great about it. Now, obviously, the biggest rub here is money, right? He's already opted out of a $25 million option from the Yankees, and he's going to be looking for more. He's 30 years old. He's probably looking for a long-term deal. So I think the Reds are probably out if there is like a 6-year deal on the table, right? There's no way they're ponying up $250 million, right? However, if we start seeing it, year goes on, it's just like, hey, Kyle Tucker maybe hasn't signed yet, all these kind of things. It's like he's still out there. Now, could the Reds be in on maybe one of these shorter but higher AAV deals, right? Something like you saw with Pete Alonso last year. Pete Alonso got basically a $27 million with an option, which he obviously took, and now he's a free agent again, where he could use a platform year for spending a year playing in Great American Ballpark, where he could then go off and hopefully get his long-term deal. Plus, then the Reds could offer him a qualifying offer, which he will gladly turn down, and the Reds will get a draft pick for. So there's a lot of things that I think could fit. Now, $30 million maybe gets this done. I think that's the highest AAV that the Reds will have ever given out. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. But, it feels like you could squint to see, if a couple things fall right and the Reds are willing to pony up for a big, they saw, hey, we saw increased attendance. We made the playoffs. We want to try to push it. And maybe Tito's last year, maybe we push the payroll over 119 million a little bit, kind of like they did in 2020, and go get somebody a short-term high AAV like a Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, plus 38 career outs above average, and the guy's played all over the field. That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, I would love it on a short term deal. I actually don't know if I would actually like love him on like a 8, 9 year deal. Like I think if I was a team, not even like taking the Reds, I think he'd be the kind of player I would not want to go that long with, just because he does seem a little bit more volatile in terms of like a hitter. Like with Kyle Schwarber, like you're expecting like at least the next 2 years, like something would have to go absolutely wrong for him to not be a great hitter. Cody Bellinger, it doesn't feel like a whole lot has to necessarily go wrong for him to be a guy that's um, an average hitter, because we've seen that with him. That would be my only concern. But yeah, in terms of short term, I don't think there's really that many 3 year deals that I'm going to be that upset with, because it doesn't set back. Like even Jamer Candelario, yeah, it sucks, but like, it didn't set this organization completely back to where they're you know trying to dig out of a Chris Bryant contract like the Rockies are. That's like there is some. I think Bellinger's a lot better than Chris Bryant, but I do see maybe some of those like parallels where he hasn't been in like an elite hitter every year after year after year. That would be the only thing that would concern me with him. But I do love the flexibility, and I would love to find that in a player. It's obviously gonna be really hard, especially with probably what the Reds are gonna spend. Just because like when I've been doing these exercises, and I know people are I know the Benson haters are gonna hate this, but I'm like, are we sure that a lot of these free agents are better than Will Benson? Like the guy that I'm going to say next, I'm not sure he's better than Will Benson, but at least with Cody Bellinger, if Benson hits, if Friedel stays in center, and Marte is what we think Marte can be in right, you still have a position you don't have to force anyone out of the lineup. So I do love that aspect of it as well.
Yeah, another thing though is I have a sneaking suspicion that you would be bidding against the Yankees here
Yeah,
because he played for the Yankees. Yankees fans love what he was able to bring in a year of inconsistencies for them, where Aaron Judge was hurt and a lot of people struggled. So that might be part of the problem. It just feels like you offer 2 year like a 2 year at $30 million with an opt out after year one. It feels like the Yankees can top that. And if they don't, then like what is going on? It's so I think that's part of why this signing percentage feels pretty low. But yeah, I would love to see Cody Bellinger, batting second, starting in center field, opening day of 2026.
yeah, I think we'd all would enjoy that. But we'll jump out of La La Land here for just a minute, and we will talk about our more realistic signing. Still would be I think a pretty substantial signing, and a signing that would certainly make some waves, but one that I don't think necessarily would break the bank, or be completely crazy. For me, I wrestled with a few options, and I landed on Mike Yastrzemski. Um, Mike Yastrzemski played most of his career for the Giants. Last year, finished with the Kansas City Royals. Has had a pretty good career. Has had some ups and downs, but his worst season since he debuted in 2019 was he had a 99 WRC plus. Every other year, he's been above 100. Now he hasn't really been that hitter that I think a lot of people thought he might be when he came up. His rookie season in 107 games had a 120 WRC plus. In the COVID year, he had a 158 WRC plus. Hasn't got above 111 since, but has certainly been a solid above average hitter. Is an adequate defender. Not great, not bad. Does have a really good arm. So a ballpark like Great American Ballpark, I think you could really make that even more of a weapon. He hit 17 home runs, only actually goes up to 19 at Great American Ballpark, but 19 home runs is a lot for kind of what we saw with this team. Yastrzemski to me kind of feels like the one guy that I could see it happening, and I think he would actually have an impact. But like I just said earlier, with a lot of these outfielders, I don't, especially the left-handed bats, I don't know if they're for sure better than Will Benson, which is my biggest kind of, I don't know if it's a concern, but my biggest like thing that makes it hard for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's also, I think, 34 or I think. So he's just like a little bit on the older side. I'm not sure. I don't remember what his projection was, but yeah, that the first thing I thought of when you said him is like, well, that's just older Will Benson,
Yeah.
because Will Benson is a left-handed platoon bat that plays pretty good defense. That you like to think that would be able to take the next step to be able to be. I would say Benson's on the ascent and Yastrzemski's probably on the descent. So yeah, you never know. You also don't know like what's going to happen with Benson. Obviously, he's not in as much favor as we would like him to be with the team. So you don't know where that's going to go. And maybe he's not with the Reds next year. But yeah, I'm with you. I feel like Yastrzemski could be productive and helpful, but it feels like you already have what he brings already on the roster.
Yeah. Him being 34, I think people he's actually 35. He just turned 35 in August, believe it or not. Born right before the Reds won the World Series in 1990, just a few months before. But I mean, that's an advantage, I think, for the Reds. I think the Reds, I don't see the Reds handing out a deal of more than 4 years, five if it's like someone they absolutely love. I think the Reds are going to be pushing for a 2-3 year max deal for anyone they sign. And obviously being older kind of helps with that. And so like, yeah, that's why I do think he's maybe a little bit more realistic and attainable for the Reds. All right, Mike, who do you got?
Yeah, mine is actually kind of just Cody Bellinger light, I think. But it's Ryan O'Hearn was my kind of middle of the road person. He's projected at about 11.5 million. I would imagine he is 32, so I'd imagine it probably wouldn't be too many years that you could probably get out of him. But he plays first base, DH, and then also I think he played 21 games in right field, 2 games in left field. So he played a little bit in the outfield too, offers that flexibility. But I bring him in just to be the DH. Like a Kyle Schwarber, we say, hey, you come in, you play DH. Last year he was 135 WRC plus for left-handed pitching and 125 against right-handed pitching. He obviously is left-handed. He got much more at-bats versus right-handed pitching. So I think some of that may be small sample size. But at worst, what he is a better Gavin Lux, right? He had 17 home runs, which obviously is better than Gavin Lux, and he played in Baltimore and in San Diego, right? These cavernous ballparks that are not good for home runs. He had what do we talk about Lux, right? He's a professional hitter. He gives you good at bats, walks a lot, strikes out, doesn't strike out as much. Ryan O'Hearn better walk rate than Gavin Lux, better strikeout rate or lower strikeout rate than Gavin Lux, and obviously more power and got on base better. So like at worst, he's your left-handed platoon, your strong side platoon DH, and he just does that better than Gavin Lux, right? And then you can maybe trade Gavin Lux for pitching depth or something like that, or maybe you keep Lux around as insurance for the infield, right? Maybe Matt McLain gets injured or it doesn't bounce back, or God forbid Elly gets injured and we have to move McLain to short, right? So he's somebody that can play second base, so maybe keep him around as a bench bat. But it's just like this is somebody that at 11.5 million compared to Lux's projected 5 feels like a significant upgrade at DH. That we'd be able to plug in. And then he also still plays good defense at first base. So if need be, he could play first base. I know we are ready to give that to Sal, but maybe you just say, O'Hearn, you play first and Sal is a DH. I think there's different ways that you can adjust. And, just like Bellinger, there's flexibility to be able to put him in the outfield if you like in a pinch, and he's not going to be terrible. The thing that I worry about, right, he's 32 and everyone, you see somebody like this, and you immediately, at least for me, I think Jamer Candelario. Just like, oh no, don't get like we don't want the cliff that Candelario fell off of, right? So, but something with a shorter AAV, I think is something that I could see us being able to do with Ryan O'Hearn to come in and immediately upgrade our DH position.
And the Padres kind of not playing him every day kind of maybe help the Reds too
Right.
in their chances. The thing I like about him with the position flexibility, yeah, I'd agree. We would probably pencil him in as your DH. But if CES figures it out, which CES has like an infancy amount of at bats, like this guy has not got a lot of at bats, has not got an extended run. If he comes to spring training and looks like the CES that we thought, you have a path to still play CES, Sal Stewart, and you could just move O'Hearn to the outfield. Yeah, it would weaken your defense a little bit, but certainly against right-handed pitch, I think you could work in one, and I don't think he's that bad. Like his Statcast numbers are not atrocious. They're not as bad as I think Gavin Lux would be out in the outfield. I think he's proven that he's probably a better defender than that. And probably even Spencer Steer, who didn't really put up great defensive numbers, didn't play very much at all. You can't really put anything into 2025, but he wasn't very good out there before. But it does give you a path, and that's the thing. I don't want to cut off the paths to some of these guys like CES because you don't know which one of these guys is going to click for. I know everyone's down on Matt McLain. You don't know if Matt McLain's going to be the guy that bounce back. You don't know if it's CES. You don't know if it's Benson. And so, yeah, I do like that flexibility aspect of it for sure.
Yeah, and we saw examples like with Noelvi Marte, right? Somebody that we were very down on and then figured it out, right? We don't know who that may be if we get a jump like that from somebody, but we want to be able to have the ability to move things around if that is the case.
All right, the most realistic sign. I don't know what I said. The bargain bin player, and there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna be like, "This is absolutely stupid, Nick. I can't believe you would even suggest something like this." And you're gonna be turning off this podcast. My guy's Josh Bell. I think he had a sneaky good season. I think probably people would think, why would you consider him? Because he was on the Nationals and didn't get traded at the trade deadline. But he was great in the second half last year. Had it over 900 OPS in the month of September. Actually, I think helped the Reds get into the playoffs with some good play against the Mets. But he's a guy that has he hit a 370 expected weighted on base average, which was better than almost all of these guys that I was looking at. Still has good power. I mean, he hit 22 home runs. It says it'd be 24 at Great America Ballpark. I just think for a guy that's 33 years old, I mean, he's the one guy you can, I think for sure, probably get on a 1-year deal. Like, I don't know, 5, 6. It's hard to tell what he is, but I think it would only be a 1-year deal, which I think is good. Still hits right-handed pitching very well. Did not hit lefties, but that's okay because like you have like Steer, who I think has proven that you have multiple right-handed options right now that I think would fit well with him. I just think I think he's a guy that could absolutely be kind of one of those sneaky Austin Hayes types pickups. To be honest, like I would love like Yastrzemski and Josh Bell. I think like the combo of that could be pretty good for the Reds. Am I crazy here, Mike?
No, he also feels like he crushes the Reds too. So it's just
Yeah.
like taking somebody that is going to do all kinds of damage against the Reds and putting them on our side, I think is also something that I could be here for. Yeah, he's going to strike out a ton. That's the only thing that I'm not sure that. Well, I don't know. There seems to be maybe a little bit of a disconnect between what is being preached by the coaching staff and what is being brought in by the front office. But whenever there's something like that, you need to improve power. I think he definitely is somebody that could do that on the cheap. Now, whether or not that's somebody that they would necessarily bring in because of certain efficiencies that he has, I don't know, but yeah, I could definitely see that and him being able to give you some pop, which was just like completely not there for the Reds DH last year.
He actually has drastically improved his strikeout rate. He was down to 16.5%,
Look at that.
79th percentile. Now, that 237 average doesn't necessarily seem like it's Chris Valleca's cup of tea, but he doesn't strike out a lot. He actually, I think, would be probably a breath of fresh air in some aspects of that. He doesn't hit for a high average, though. I don't know where all his balls go, but he does put a lot of balls in play. He does walk a lot. He walked in almost 11% of his plate appearances. So again, in terms of like a bargain signing, I think Josh Bell is one that I would love for the Reds to target. All right, Mike, who do you got?
Yeah, mine is bargain binning because he's coming off of a terrible year. So mine is Lane Thomas, someone that we have talked about either at trade deadlines or free agency for the past couple years. And the reason why is because the dude absolutely crushes left-handed pitching. He had his worst year of his career last year. It was marred by injury, and even when he was playing, it wasn't great. He just had foot surgery. But is expected to be back in 2026. And because of all of that, he's going to be so cheap, like $2 million cheap, like not even Austin Hayes cheap. He's going to be even cheaper than that, is what the projections are saying. And this is a guy that in 2024 had a 145 WRC plus against left-handed pitching, and in his career is a 135 WRC plus against left-handed pitching. He's got a plus arm, plus speed in the outfield. He also can play all three outfield positions. You can tell the theme that I have here in my signings is giving us outfield flexibility while also gaining somebody that is going to potentially add to a deficiency, which was against left-handed pitching, especially before Miguel Andujar showed up. And here's another great thing about Lane Thomas. At Great American Ballpark, he has 19 games at Great American Ballpark. He's batting .310 with a 1.042 OPS. That's a 180 OPS plus. And in 19 games, he has 7 home runs and 22 hits. That 7 home runs is the second most of any ballpark. And he's played for 3 teams. So, like, Washington, he's played for the longest. He has the most home runs. But he's played for St. Louis and Cleveland as home ballparks. And he has over 50 some games in both of those. And he has more home runs at Great American Ballpark in only 19 games than any of those ballparks. So this dude clearly sees the ball well against the Reds. And, we can get him for basically nothing. That's Santiago Espinal money at $2 million. And then if you're able to get 120 WRC plus against a left-handed pitcher, like that is an incredible, like platoon with Benson, boom, there it is. You got it. You solved it. And then if he has a great year, then it's just like you look like a genius. So that's my bargain bin hunting, the guy who absolutely crushes the Reds at Great American Ballpark.
So he's the Austin Hayes replacement that you don't have to play against right-handed pitching because he hasn't proven it enough. He wasn't an all-star. Or maybe he was an all-star. Was he an all-star at the Nats? He probably was. It doesn't matter. But no, I like Lane Thomas. And the Reds were actually linked to him because I know I recorded something last year on the Reds interested in Josh Naylor and Lane Thomas. So take that for what it was. The Reds were actually interested in trading for him last year. So certainly as a free agent, if they were interested in trading for him last year, I would think there definitely would be some interest there. So yeah, I like that signing a lot. All right, we're going to do one more exercise. I'm going to go ahead and read through just for those maybe listening in the podcast form. Just if you're curious, like kind of who are free agents. I'm not going to like read through the top ones like Tucker and Bo Bichette. And Pete Alonso, although I did just read through them. But I'm reading through maybe some of the more somewhat players that the Reds, especially Reds fans, might be interested in. So we have Eugenio Suarez, Trent Grisham, Josh Naylor, Gleyber Torres. We got Cedric Mullins, Marcelo Ozuna, who the Reds have been linked to before. Obviously, Miguel Andujar, former Red. Ty France, former Red, actually had a sneaky good year. For the Twins, that ended up playing in the ALCS right now with the Toronto Blue Jays. Luis Arraez, who I don't really even want to talk about. Paul Goldschmidt, Adam Frazier, Yoan Moncada, Starling Marte, Max Kepler, Willie Castro. And that's probably about it there. Jesse Winker and Andrew McCutcheon sitting down there at the bottom. So, Mike, the last thing we're going to do, who is the most likely player that the Reds sign in free agency, excluding Miguel Andujar and Austin Hayes? I think we would agree there's certainly a possibility those guys return because it seemed like both players that the Reds really liked. So we'll exclude those for the sake of fun here and entertainment. The most likely, I'll let you go first. The most likely Reds signing this offseason is?
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm going to say Rob Refsnyder. I know that this is somebody that I wanted the Reds to trade for at the trade deadline. Lefty masher Rob Refsnyder. It looks like he's probably only going to be about $4 million, maybe $4.3 million. It's somebody that, very similar to Lane Thomas, hits left-handed pitching very well. I know it was leading off for the Red Sox against left-handed pitching. You could go and you could platoon with Benson in left field, and boom, there you go. He also can play right. maybe he's not the biggest signing they have, but I think that him or Lane Thomas. If I would have done this first, I think I probably would have picked Lane Thomas as my most likely. But somebody like that, left-handed hitting or right-handed hitting lefty platoon outfield bat is where I think the Reds end up shopping in.
All right. I'm gonna read some that I think's likely, then I'll get to my actual one. I think like Max Kepler, could see him coming back on kind of a more prove it deal. Some of his underlying metrics were a little bit better than I think he showed in Philly. So I think a prove it deal at Great American Ballpark would be definitely a potential thing there. Willie Castro's one. One I really almost went with instead is Paul Goldschmidt. I just absolutely see that as a possibility. Guy who's 38 years old, killed the Reds his whole career. All right, one last run in the sun. Marcelo Zuna, the Reds have been linked to him before. I think he would be a potential one. I do not think Luis Ariz. I don't think there's any way the Reds sign him. I think that's like everyone's nightmare fuel. I don't. I think the Reds know where they're at and they need a guy with power. They do not need him. I don't think it'll happen. If it does, clip me up and have some fun with that. I don't think it'll happen. But the guy that I think is the most likely is the guy that the Reds were reportedly interested in the trade deadline. Say Eugenio Suarez. And I know they got Brian Hayes. It would be like, well, they got Brian Hayes. They don't need a third baseman. I think you would be signing Suarez with the idea of him being a first base / DH. And being a third base insurance for Brian Hayes, who's had a lot of back injuries. I think Suarez would love to come back to Cincinnati if he's another guy that I think the Reds offer him whatever the highest the actual best offer from anywhere else. I think there's a good chance he chooses Cincinnati. I think Suarez, it feels like the move. I would be okay. I still be okay with it. I think it certainly would make the Reds better as long as it's not a crazy long-term deal. I don't think he's nearly at the top of my board because I do see some underlying metrics that were maybe a little bit concerning with him. And is he able to repeat? But honestly, the fact that he was so bad down the stretch in Seattle, I think almost makes him more realistic with the Reds. Any thoughts on a potential Suarez reunion?
Yeah, I think the whatever 38 home runs he hit in the first half or something ridiculous like that is still plenty to
Yeah.
carry his bad second half. So I still think that he wouldn't be somebody that like Austin Hayes money, right? He's still gonna command a pretty hefty chunk of change. But yeah, I've enjoyed watching the Mariners because of the Luis Castillo and Eugenio Suarez on there. Those are guys that have brought me so much joy in the years where the Reds maybe weren't as good, and I'm happy for them out there. And it would be great to bring home Eugenio Suarez, newly minted with his World Series ring after winning it with the Mariners. Come on back home and finish off your career. Get your retirement tour with the Reds. I think, well, I guess he's only 34, so he's probably not retirement tour yet, but yeah, that would be awesome to see Suarez. Just such a fun guy to root for.
All right. Well, we went through it all. We kind of talked some free agents. We'll continue to talk for off-season stuff all off-season long, and when news unfolds or any rumors or any pieces of information or interviews that we find interesting, we'll come on and talk about it all off-season long as we do. Mike, I appreciate you joining. Mike has been a huge part of Chatterbox Bengals. I hope you all have been tuning into that. The guys have been doing full game live streams. We're talking a pregame show. Someone's usually Reed Mouse, sometimes it's Craig Sandlin, live during the whole game, just want to watch along, reacting. They do a halftime show. Mike comes in a lot for that. And then they do a post game show, and that post game show is posted as a podcast. And they also talk about all the breaking news. So be sure to check out Chatterbox Bengals on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube and Chatterbox Bengals everywhere you get podcasts. If you could do me a favor, loyal Chatterbox folks, leave them a 5-star review in the podcast feed wherever you're at. They're trying to really grow that. They're putting a lot of work into that, so we'd appreciate that. And then, of course, all kinds of other content here off the bench, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., Monday through Friday. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, also available everywhere you get podcasts. Stone Shield Show, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to noon. Also available everywhere you get podcasts. Chatterbox Bearcats, same thing. Flying Lion, FC Cincinnati, all kinds of stuff on Chatterbox Sports. Links to all that is in the episode notes below, or if you're on YouTube, just start clicking around. You'll find all the stuff. So, Mike, appreciate you coming on. We'll I'll bug you again real soon, and we'll chat. I'll try to do it before midnight next time. But appreciate you, my friend, and thanks everyone for listening. We'll talk again soon. Go Reds.